Hello and welcome to the Argyle CIO Leadership Forum. My name is Vicki Lynn Brunskill with Argyle. It's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our speakers for this session. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience today. At any time during the event, you can visit those virtual booths from the main agenda page. Also, throughout today's event, you have the opportunity to win one of several prizes, so please be sure to check out the prizes and raffle rules tab of the interface to see how you can earn points. And now, without further delay, I'd like to introduce our speakers for this session, Ben Askin, Chief Information Officer at Vertex, Mark Duclos, Senior Director of Global Strategic Partnerships at Vertex, and Brian Wilczewski, also Senior Director of Global Strategic Partnerships at Vertex. We are so excited to have Ben, Mark, and Brian with us for a fireside chat titled Driving Outstanding Business Transformation with Vertex. Welcome, gentlemen, and over to you.
Hello and welcome to Argyle CIO Leadership Forum. I'm Mark Duclos, Senior Global Director for Vertex, and I manage the Oracle NetSuite partnership. And joining today are two of my teammates, Brian Wilczewski and Ben Askin. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Today, we're going to have an interactive discussion around transformation. And as we do, we welcome your questions and comments. However, we're going to touch on a lot of areas, so we'll save some of the questions for the end. How about if we start with some brief introductions? Ben, why don't you go first, and then maybe we'll kick it over to Brian.
Sure. Thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. My name is Ben Askin. I'm the Chief Information Officer here at Vertex. Started about 4 years ago, and during that time, we have done a full technology process transformation within the company. And now that we're on the back side of that whole journey, this is a great, timely conversation. So thanks for having me, Mark.
Thank you, Ben. Brian.
Yeah, Mark, thank you. Brian Wilczewski, similar to Mark, as Senior Director here at Vertex for key strategic relationships. In this case, I manage our relationship and accountable leadership with SAP. So happy to be here today. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, thank you both. Let's jump right into it, shall we?
Sure.
So, Ben, let's talk about transformation. It appears transformation has become more of a constant state, shifting from one portion of the business to the other. Ben, can you talk a little bit about what you see as the drivers for this perpetual state of transformation, so to speak?
Thanks, Mark. I think the main thing is things are just moving so much faster than they ever have in the world of business, whether it's, certainly globally, certainly it's different markets that companies are going into, and just the rate of speed of technology and changes there, and just your ability to keep up. That's the main thing that we're seeing, certainly at Vertex. And as you both know, our customers are evolving incredibly, fast and in different places across so many more different customer segments than we've ever had before. And it's really our job to meet our customers where they are and support them the best way that we can. So that's really, it's the speed of everything is what I'm seeing, Mark.
Ben, that's interesting from a transformation standpoint. And it looks like underlying every transformation, there's this underpinning of complexity and change. In your role as CIO of Vertex, how do you balance competing priorities in the face of that change and complexity?
No, that's a great question, Brian. And I think for all of us and for the audience, here based on the last question, and the one thing that we all have to appreciate is that everything today is so interconnected than it ever has been. That necessitates for us a broad ranging value stream orientation. And that's how we have to think through everything end to end these days, whether it's from order to cash, whether it's from procurement to pay, anywhere in our organization. It's not just what is happening in finance, but what's happening upstream, et cetera. So it's all one large interconnected solution that we want to think about. And that's what we do at Vertex. And then in terms of how we prioritize, you need to have a method on how you're going to prioritize. And for us, we want to focus on something called cost of delay. That's just our method for it. So whether it's a project, whether it's a program, whether it's even a feature, the cost of delay is important. And what that drives for us is if we don't do it now, what is the impact on our customer What's the impact on our employees, or what's the impact on our business? So the larger the cost of delay, that's how we actually do our prioritization in the company with so many priorities coming at us. So I think the other thing that we also like to focus on is really understanding the interrelation of how initiatives work together and what their impact is on the business. That's super critical. The other part of being able to do that well is clearing through any ambiguity that may be there, because you have to have clarity in order to get to that priority. And that's a super important factor. I think then the next area that we tend to think about is our teams are collaborating, cross collaboration, more than we've ever seen. You guys know that, right? You guys have been around for a while. We, through this cross collaboration, we're making sure that the investment dollars that we're putting at this are aligned, that we all have a shared understanding around what's our accountability. What's the accountability by department? Like from the business, like what is the business's accountability versus IT versus finance, or versus even human resources in a lot of instances, because a lot of the programs and things that we're trying to do for our customers and our employees and our company, they're all transformational. It is this constant state of transformation. I think the other thing on that is probably the most important thing is grasping how the changes that we're talking about are going to eliminate obstacles and drive business value for our customers again, and for Vertex and Vertex employees again. So anticipating these changes, like how are these changes going to affect the operating model that we currently have? What are the capabilities, new capabilities, changes to existing capabilities that we need across people, business process, data, and technology? Like that's super essential. And I'll give you a quick example, Brian. You know, as we've gone through our transformation right now, data literacy, which has gained so much prominence in our business because of the way we transformed our systems and our data architecture. We've prioritized data to be right in front of all of us now. So developing data literacy skills are super important, which we've always had, but now they're even more important because what we don't do anymore is wrangle with data. Source of truth is right in front of you. That's been a big change for us. That's a big shift for us in terms of capabilities and people. So great question. Thanks.
That's really interesting. So let's touch on something you just said, Ben, right? Let's talk about the technology.
Yeah.
Applications, platforms, as well as the way they're deployed and integrated seem to be changing rapidly, and you've even driven some of your prioritization. How do you drive the technical transformation when it seems like the goalpost continues to move?
Really good question, Mark. I think the one thing that's important, and as I came into Vertex and we took a look at everything, and I mean the royal everything, I think the key thing that we're all trying to get good at is developing business agility as a core skill as an organization. If you're a really agile business, then the goalposts, they can move all they want, but you're going to be ready. If you really break this whole conversation that we're having down today, the one singular thing is about developing business agility as an organization, no matter what your size is. That's the actual transformation I think that most of us are going after today. And there's some pillars associated with that, Mark, that I think are important. You know, as we're going through this, and as you both know, prioritizing this digital first approach or this digital culture is a main tenet that we have. And what I would say to the audience here, because I know there's a lot of leaders out here, leading by example, leveraging the technology for your effective decision-making, for your team's productivity, like that is super important, that you demonstrate that you are using the technology, able to use the technology in front of your team. And this is not about adding more work. Technology today is so advanced. It should be about providing your team and yourself with a better work-life balance. I mean, that's really what we're going after and what we're seeing with our transformations that we've gone through.
Yeah, I think you made a key comment there, right? Oh, sorry, Brian. Ben, just real quick, you maintaining that clean, accurate data, but making the data forefront to the teams and sure they have access to it, right? To help understand objectives and be able to build for that scalability and flexibility. And then composability as well. Can you talk a little bit about that, Ben? And then Brian, I think you might have had a question for Ben as well.
We'll let Ben go ahead and answer Mark's question there.
No, for sure. Well, like to the data part, clean and accurate data, look, that's table stakes, right? That gets to the heart of what I was describing on the business agility side of this.
Right.
I think part of getting to that clean business data or that pristine and reliable business data is about how you're building out your solutions, your enablement, your processes. And I think simplicity matters there. Technology, the way that it is today, be it ERP technology or other SaaS application oriented technology, there's a lot of simpleness to it, and you want to embrace that simpleness because that's going to give you a much better and reliable, cleaner data set that you want to work off. And that cleaner data set is going to help you do a lot of things, not just from reliability of decisions you're going to make, but that's what's going to enable you to scale. That's what's going to enable you to put AI at something. That's what's going to enable you to scale automated processes and really take full advantage of what you've built there. I love the composability part of your question, though, Mark. And I think what's important is, as many of us are probably sitting here with different types of technology that's enabling our organization. Some of us have ERP systems that stretch from front to back. Some of us are using kind of different solutions for our front office. We're using different solutions for our middle office. And we may be using different solutions for our back office, but it's still one connected end-to-end process that we have. And the thing about any solution, either whatever you have, is integration is critical, and composable solutions that sit within and around that solution are super important. So on our transformation, you guys know that because we're a software company, our contracts, like we leverage DocuSign is a good example of a highly composable solution that we have for our contracting. My favorite example, though, happens to be Vertex. As we've deployed Vertex has one core system that we are able as a company to set our calculations and our processing that we need in the front office, in our kind of order through contract area, down in our back office from financing and invoicing areas, over to payroll for ourselves, even in procurement. So that to me is the definition of a really well thought out composable solution, that one core that I can leverage anywhere I want at any time. And it works front to back reliably the same, while constantly getting the types of updates that it needs. For me as a CIO, that's a pretty low cost of ownership that I have right there. And for our teams in our tax department, very small tax department, they have all the capabilities and reporting that they need to do their job well to ensure that we're reliable with all of those tax calculations that we're doing, but also when it comes to audit and our financial compliance requirements, we're set there.
So what I hear in that, Ben, too, is when you talk about it from the Vertex perspective, is make sure you're choosing the right platforms and partners, right? Who help you meet those goals. Not only necessarily in their current offerings, but willingness to be able to grow with you and commit to your ongoing success. It appears as if that's another important factor as you're within this constantly changing goalpost to find the right partner.
Yeah, I definitely, Brian, and you guys know me well enough. Around these core solutions that we have, around these composable solutions that we have, the days of me wanting to be in a transactional relationship with any company that's providing me these core systems, they're gone. I really am keen on working with partners that have a thoughtful roadmap that I know is going to fit our team and our industry where we're going. But I think the bigger thing that I also see with a lot of them, specifically the kind of the best of the best, they're putting that seat at the table for me and our teams to kind of meet us where we are and let us also kind of meet them. They open up their roadmaps. They share those with us. They ask us what we think. And then we actually see kind of change going into those systems that, support us. Sometimes I like to think that maybe we had something to do with that, but I certainly know that our interactions with them and how frequent we're meeting with them are certainly going a long way to build that trusted relationship that we have. And that's great for them. We lock in those renewals, and the renewals are getting longer and longer with our core solutions because they're going in the right direction, and we love that about them.
That's key.
Yeah, it is key. I think Mark and I, right, we see it in our dealings with our various ecosystem partners, and similarly the relationships and the conversations they have with our mutual clients, theirs and ours, that integrate, and how critical that is. I guess I was at a partner event last week, and to the community of interest, and one of the key topics, I'd say the primary topic, was about AI and machine learning. And I can't tell you how many sessions covered that topic, and about what those technologies will do to enable companies to embark on a digital transformation. Can you talk a little bit about your approach here at Vertex to building our strategy around AI and machine learning?
Yeah, for sure. I think the first thing, what's important to do, it's such a big topic, is I really look, how do I cut through the hype of all of it? What's real here? What's going to be value add to Vertex, to our employees, and to our customers? I think the key thing for me, from how we go about AI solutions at Vertex, and we have quite a few now running inside the company, is that they are useful, that they are helpful, particularly in handling things like large data sets or generating ideas, ensuring, just the quality of work, whether it's within our ERP system or some of our composable solutions, our SaaS solutions that sit around the core. These solutions now, as you guys know, they're serving as co-pilots for us. They're promptly flagging potential errors for us in certain places. They're just improving our overall reliability of responding to questions, be them complex questions, whatnot, and then just driving overall better efficiency, for us. And I think that next step in the evolution, Brian, is taking what we're learning from the basics and now applying company-specific data within those models for us, so that we as leaders, we're constantly trying to do our main focus, which is focus on our customers, but we've got budgets to run. We've got new capabilities that we're trying to bring in and plan. And what we're seeing now with a lot of the AI that we have internally is, well, we can ask that question. I need this new capability. What does my team structure look like with that new capability, without the constraint of the budget that I have, right? We're not in a place where we continue to go ask for money. We're a very responsible company when it comes to how we manage our budgets and our teams around here. You guys know that better than anybody, right? So we're leveraging AI now to help us with this. And then I think when we take one step further, just beyond that, the future role that we're going to see it starting to play soon is it's going to be performing tasks for us, complex tasks, freeing like our teams up to focus on like process optimization, or developing new capabilities, or getting into that new market that we want to get into. For instance, in IT, one of the things that we're doing right now is AI starting to handle some routine tasks for us. It's actually doing the work of routine tasks. It's also making sure that routine task is done, it's checked, and it's also properly logged from an audit perspective. So we're really starting to see those kinds of things come to life, and it's great because it's elevating our team's ability to focus on the important thing, which is our internal customers, you guys, right? And also supporting our customers. So I'm thrilled with the direction that we're going in. I think the key thing is that, build it responsibly, build it with a high level of trust. And then that to me equals win.
That was a big part of what I heard last week from the numerous sessions, was it just what you said, these routine, if you will call them mundane tasks, right? How do you use AI and machine learning to become more efficient there, to focus on the higher value tasks internally or externally?
That's the whole
great point.
Yep, that's the whole point. Yep.
Yeah, thanks. Ben, thanks for that. And Brian, thanks for your comments around AI. It seems to be on the lips of every executive we talk to and seems to be in every news article that you read. Ben, a few minutes ago, you mentioned understanding what you're building to support, right? That was a key tenet, right? As in your role and CIOs that are out there and chief digital officers, knowing what we're building to support the business of the customers internally and externally. And to me, that seems collaboration, which you mentioned again, also across the teams to ensure that the transformation will support the needs of the business. What are some of the ways that you ensure that true collaboration and consensus across functions in the organization, and make sure that they're regarding the focus and priority of those transformation initiatives?
So to me, it starts with having the right trusted conversation with our colleagues and partners inside of the company, and really building that really solid relationship there. This is partnership across functions and teams. This is really deeply understanding like these problems and use cases that we're trying to solve for, opportunities that we have. It's separating need versus want. That's a huge one. What are the change management aspects? That tends to be the thing that gets kind of overlooked. And when I mean change management is real true people change. How does the operating model change? How do the organizational structures change? What does people's work look like on the other side of something like this? That is a super important one, right? A lot of times in a lot of organizations, I'm sure a lot of the audience out here, IT can sometimes become your reconciliation point for all things people, process, technology, and data. That's not going to get you to where you want to be there, right? And then I think the biggest thing is also understanding the return on investment that you're about ready to make. Is the juice going to be worth the squeeze that you're trying to do? Because there are so many priorities, and certainly some are going to be more valuable that cost a delay than others. And how we approach it at Vertex is we're very thoughtful about what I call as getting this conversation going and aligned is called a phase zero approach. That's getting the business conversation framed and well understood. The business knows what they want to do, but how do we get that framed in a way that they can communicate the value, they can communicate both the internal business value to the employees, to the work that has to be done, and to the customer, so that we've got a really solid financial argument to make for the company. And then you take that aspect of it and you build out a capability matrix. It sounds pretty simple, and it actually is when you're at the right level of conversation. So what are the new capabilities we're looking to develop as a company to support our customer, to support our employees or our company? What are the existing capabilities that we have that need to change? And what are some of the capabilities that, they're just no longer relevant when we make this move? And when you frame that business value kind of across all of your personas, both external customer personas and your internal employee personas, and you lay that into a capability map, now you're in a position to prioritize which capabilities do I want to go after first, because I need them right now and they're big movers. Which ones can I have a little time on before I need to go off and build, right? And which ones can I postpone? And not necessarily indefinitely, but I just don't need them up front. And that really helps you kind of fit into your scopes, into your budgets, and you're able to start moving forward, all locked arms. That's the key thing, is the locked arms. The only thing that I'm not talking about, though, that sits under that is a thoughtful solution architecture that hits the technology enablement and the data, right? Because at the end of the day, we're trying to get to business agility again, right? And we're trying to get to really, really good business insight. So that's how we approach it, and we're building that muscle. But we've just went through, a massive transformation over the last couple of years. So we've had a pretty good run at figuring out how to do some of this stuff at this point.
Yeah, agreed. Thanks for that insight, man.
Okay, it's my turn. It's my turn.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Are you ready?
Brian
ready?
and I are ready.
Are you ready? All right, I'm gonna flip the script on this. I've talked too much already. So I've talked about the technical business sides of it, our customer attributes and go-to-market types of aspects, operational aspects. But let's get into like a lot of the financial transformation elements of it. And talking about tax and finance and compliance drivers, because I love every time we're hanging out, I always get to just really hear what's on the mind of our customers and stuff like that, and where they want to go. That actually, I've taken stuff that you guys have told me and I've applied it to some of the things that we've done. Like our customers have great ideas, and you guys are great at working with them. So why don't you guys talk about like what are our customers saying around financial transformation, et cetera, that you guys want to share with this audience today? I'm excited.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Brian, you want me to start off?
Yeah, sure. Why don't you start?
All right. Yeah, so Ben, thanks for the question. And Brian and I, as part of these partner ecosystems, and we go to the conferences and we go to the executive summits, like we are talking to the customers, right? And how they're using our technology with a partner's technology. As you well know, most of the ERPs have out of the box some base level capabilities, but there's got to be that interaction with other areas of the business to understand how they're going to utilize the data that comes through that ERP, right? And tax and finance are key stakeholders, not only in the business flows and the workflows, but also utilizing that data to make decisions, but also augmenting it and then passing it to the next team. And that's something that's very, very important, is making sure that as companies are going through an IT or finance transformation, that tax is part of the conversation with IT, right? As you said, there's internal customers and external customers that are utilizing this. As you've mentioned, we've gone through our own tax and finance transformation. And even before we started to do that, and our customers are doing it as well, as they're taking a look at the entire enterprise and how that conversation is going to happen, how the end users are going to utilize it. What does the base technology that they've purchased or the ERP have? What are the partners that they're also looking at? So a large ERP plus a Vertex solution, how tight is that integration? Is the communication there? Is there a faster time to go live for me for my project? It's very key for those transformation projects that our customers are saying they really are considering all of the solutions that they buy. Can they work well together?
Yes.
So that you're spending time doing business things and not trying to plug technology together. It's very, very important to them. Brian, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, you talked a little bit about bringing tax and finance in early, because I think underlying all that is this idea of how interconnected the tax is to every transaction within the business, whether you're buying, selling, the data requirements for tax, and in many cases, and what the results you want out of that to impact the business are huge. You look at it, when you're quoting something, when you're doing order to cash, procure to pay, whether you're selling digital commerce, tax is critical to all that. So I think having tax and the tax folks and those requirements brought early into the architecture and the requirements and solution is critical. I mean, that's what we hear from all customers. I think that's what we're telling people to do, because at the end of the day, and you think of everything that Ben has shared during this conversation, it's this idea of how do we build this concept of the intelligent enterprise? How do you take that data and leverage into the intelligence that provides that agility to adjust business models that allow you to rapidly change if you have to adjust supply chains or something else? I think, how do you bring in the right technology to support that? And again, pulling it back into an integrated way. Because tax has such a play at the end of the day, and compliance and risk and real, what you reserve from a cash perspective. So
yeah, very much so.
You need a foundation to be able to support that. I think of what Ben has talked about over the last time here. It does seem to make it complex, but it can be made easy if you approach it the right way. Or you can bring in an appropriate process to address.
I think that's critical, Brian, because that goes all the way back to the first point about how everything's interconnected.
Yeah.
Up front. So when you're for the CIOs and chief digital officers and folks that are doing solution architecture, et cetera, is thinking about all that componentry up front. That's absolutely critical, that you want to have all those pieces thought out, especially as I talked about, like how fast things are moving today and how fast the technology is moving today. And to have that really reliable piece of composable solution within your stack, it's absolutely critical. You can't have those things be afterthoughts anymore. And I think like maybe in years past, they could be an afterthought. They just really can't. Or you're going to find yourself upside down pretty quick in some places.
Oh, agreed. 100%, Ben. 100%. That's fantastic. Ben, Brian, we've covered a lot today. Before we end, Ben, any final recommendations or some key things that the audience or those that are with us today should really think about and take into their planning sessions?
No, yeah, thanks, Mark. You know what I would say is probably many of you out there are maybe trying to decide whether you start a transformation program, or maybe some of you are trying to figure out if you're too far behind and, you know, what really can you do now because of the speed of everything. You know, my advice to that is get going. You're not too far behind at all. But if you don't kind of start to make these investments and have a plan on how you're going to get yourself funded through this and what are the new capabilities that you need, because you have to have this business agility and you have to have these platforms that are going to help you compete, right? And these and like this is real game-changing stuff now with what you're doing with your technology and your platforms that you have to help you you know, capture the market share you're trying to capture, to get into those new places that you want to get into. You have to have systems and agility like this that's going to help you get there. So I would say get after it. In terms of, you know, how do I fund it or something like that? You know, these because of where the technology is you can start in a space, gain value from that, and have that reinvest right back into what you're doing. That's how we are doing it now. We had to do quite a large lift to get to where we are, but now we can kind of fund all the new stuff that we're doing from the benefits that we're getting from that big lift. So I think it's just important that no, it's not too late. You know, make a plan and get after it.
No, it makes great sense. And I, you know, as I know we're getting close to our time today, Ben, I want to thank you for your insight along the way. I hope the audience will find some practical experience and things to take into their planning on this. So why don't we there have been a few questions, so why don't we take a couple minutes here to go through some of the questions that have come in.
All right, thanks, Brian. It looks like we've had a few questions come in to the chat during our session. So this one is actually for both of you. This is kind of an interesting one. You both mentioned tax and finance, and having navigated your way through our transformation, Ben, and Brian, you see our customers going through this. How would you advise a business with multiple ERPs and multiple regions with multiple business units looking to consolidate on SAP's S/4HANA?
Yeah, to me, from conversations with customers and see the advice that SAP themselves offers, I think, you know, it really mirrors closely to a lot of what Ben said during the session today in terms of the project planning, and I see where success comes from in this as they're trying to do this is really start evaluating your business needs and particularly pay attention to what processes you have today and what processes you can eliminate. What do you want to add? I tend to see more on the elimination side because in SAP, right, many companies have built a whole host of customizations along the way to customize to their business. This offers them a great opportunity to pivot a little bit and get tighter with how they run their business to provide that, as Ben talked about, that agility and that intelligence. So I think really, for me, really evaluating what you want to accomplish and take the time to work through with all the stakeholders how you want to get there is critical in terms of just where to start.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right, Brian. Like for me, like to elaborate a little bit more on what you just said, you know, for me at that tactical level, like everybody's coming from a different spot on this. And I think the first thing that I would look at is what is common across my business processes across the regions that I'm serving, right? Help me really understand what that is. And then I also want to understand my core, because that customization point is really important. Because if you are heavily customized, it may be really hard to get to where you want to go. So you may have to take another approach on that. Like, is your core highly European centric, or is your core highly US centric? Right? It's kind of rare where you've kind of come up and tried to harmonize these things. But I would say a couple of things that I have seen, and specifically in the SAP space, is whether you can get into a single cloud tenant of their solution, of their cloud solution that they have, that's great. But if you still need kind of a multi-regional type of approach, you can still do that in the cloud. What really gets important then is the data architecture that sits around it, right? We used to call them financial consolidation systems. Well, yeah, people still need financial consolidation systems, but the data is also more important. It's not just financial consolidation anymore. There's a lot more to the data that you want to get insight on. And I do think that a lot of these great partners they're going to come to you with some recommendations around that for sure, about how you best go about that.
No, solid points, Ben, really. There is that partnership aspect will come into play very much so.
Yep.
So Brian, actually, I think this one is to you because of one of your answers earlier, comments you had made, and then Ben, feel free to jump in. Brian, you mentioned the use case around e-invoicing and compliance, right? That is a huge subject across a lot of our mutual customers that are global. There's a lot of unique requirements across many countries, and some of them are still very fluid. What would your advice be to those what is your advice to those of us who are trying to get started implementing solutions to support those emerging and pressing requirements around e-invoicing? What's your perspective, Brian?
Well, I come back to a comment that I made a little earlier, and the time is now. It's never too late to get in. I mean, some of these, you see these requirements changing in some of these regulations, some delay in this, but if you're not already starting to invest in understanding what's going on here and seeing how this is going to impact, supplier invoicing, customer invoicing, and the requirements around that, you need to be doing it now. You need to start getting prepared. At this point, I think it's as simple as that, and looking at what solutions are available to you, what technology you can apply to this to ensure that it fits within your business. I'll leave it at that. It is coming. I would encourage everyone to make sure they're staying abreast of what it is and what's going to be required to satisfy the requirements here.
Yeah, that's all I would say, is stay connected to it. Is like, just keep your finger on the pulse of where it's going. It is wildly fluid as we are all learning.
But it's coming, so
yeah,
if you're not waiting for it,
very much.
The time is now.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it looks like, I'll pick up the next one. It looks like they're switching gears here a little bit. Here's a question from an Oracle customer who's taking their business to Europe or expanding. Looking at their question here, can you speak to, Mark, and Ben can address some of the challenges that customers have faced in terms of this expansion to Europe, and maybe some opportunities to overcome those challenges, or some advice on how to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Perfect segue, right? We just talked about one of the biggest challenges that seems to be in front of a lot of companies that are going global. I talked about this a little bit earlier, right? Is taking a look at the core ERP and looking at the other solutions that an enterprise is purchasing alongside of that ERP. Tax is number one, right? Vertex has very highly integrated solutions into Oracle offerings, but at the same time, those customers are looking at procurement and order management and the e-commerce even, right? So you want to take your resources and spend them building out business processes and refining workflows and cleaning up customer data. You don't want them plugging technology together. So really look at the technologies and how well do they know each other? How well and how many times have they worked well together? right? So that you are taking advantage of that core ERP platform and then the integrated solutions like Vertex that go alongside of that ERP. That's how you get through those challenges, is making sure that the solution can deliver now, as Ben has mentioned, but also for the future.
No, good advice.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add around that as you're going through that, especially if you're kind of going from a more US centric solution enablement that you have now, and you're going to start emerging in Europe, it's also make sure that you have the right capabilities on your team. Europe gets, to me, in my experience, gets highly localized really quick in a lot of different areas, depending on where you're doing business. So whether you're partnering with somebody or whether you're doing, it yourself, make sure you have the right people that can understand and make the right decisions for you around that. And that'll save you a ton of time and a ton of money as you're going through an implementation like this. If it sounds like that's the voice of experience, it is.
Right. Very much so. Yeah, great point. Great point. Because you could have all the technology in the world, but if you don't have the resources that know the localization of it,
right,
there'll be a miss. Yeah, and it could be costly. No, great point, Ben. Great point. Well, listen, thank you both, gentlemen. I appreciate your time today. It's a lot of stuff we covered, a lot of great content and a lot of best practices and some real world use cases that I think this audience can use and take back to the table as they look at their own projects. So with that, please, thank you again for joining us. Ben Askin, CIO here at Vertex, Brian Wilczewski, Senior Global Director for the SAP Partnership here at Vertex, and for myself, Mark. Thank you all for your time and look forward to talking to you all in the near future.
Thank you so much, Ben, Mark, and Brian, for that insightful and extremely practical discussion. I also want to thank everyone for joining us today for this session. This session, along with all of today's sessions, content will be available on demand following the event. And as a reminder, please do check out the prizes and raffles rules section to see how you can earn points for a chance to win a prize. Our next session will begin after the break at 1:25 p.m. Eastern Time, and that will be a keynote presentation titled IT Leadership Beyond the Human Operating System. Please click on the join button that will appear on your screen to be redirected to that session, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you again.